You've probably tried growing vegetables in pots before. Maybe they grew a little, but mostly they just took up space, didn't produce much, and by August you'd given up. Here's the thing, it wasn't your containers. It wasn't your soil. It was the direction you were growing. Because the gardener's getting the most out of a small balcony or patio. They're not growing out. They're growing up. Today I'm going to show you 10 vegetables that absolutely thrive when grown vertically in containers, including a couple you've probably never considered. Pole beans. Let's start with what might be the single best vertical container crop for U.S. gardeners, pole beans. Now, a lot of people default to bush beans for containers because they seem more manageable. But that's actually a mistake. Pole beans produce roughly 2 to 3 times the yield of bush beans in the same pot, and they keep producing for up to 10 weeks. All you need is a 5-gallon bucket and a teepee of 3 6-foot bamboo stakes tied at the top. The vines do the rest, they naturally twine around the support without any training. One thing to watch, don't use a 4-foot cage. Pole beans can hit 8 to 10 feet, and if they run out of room, the tangled growth invites powdery mildew. The variety I'd recommend starting with is Fortex. It's long, tender, and performs exceptionally well in containers. Pole beans are your heavy hitter for summer. But what if you want something ready earlier in the year like February or March? Sugar snap peas. That's where sugar snap peas come in. These are a cool season crop, which means you can get them in the ground while the rest of your garden is still dormant. And because they climb using tiny tendrils, they're ideal for vertical growing. Here's something that surprises most people. Peas don't need a deep pot. They have shallow, fibrous roots. What matters more is giving their tendrils something thin to grip. Nylon netting works great, as do natural twig supports pushed into the soil. One tip the pros use: before planting, coat your seeds with Rhizobium bacteria. It's a simple inoculant you can find at most garden centers, and it boosts nitrogen fixation, giving your plants noticeably better vigor. And don't overlook the pea shoots. The top couple inches of the vine are edible, actually sold as a specialty green at farmers markets. Snipping them also encourages the plant to branch out and produce more pods. Peas give you an early start. But what about when summer really heats up? That's when the next crop becomes your best friend. Cucumbers. Cucumbers are a summer staple, and when you grow them vertically, they become a completely different plant. On the ground, a cucumber sprawls 6 to 8 feet. On a trellis, you reclaim all of that floor space, get straighter fruit, and dramatically reduce disease pressure. One single trellised cucumber in a 5-gallon pot can produce 10 to 15 fruits over the season. Research from the Hort Science Journal found that vertical cucumber production increased marketable yield compared to ground growing, largely due to reduced insect damage and better fruit quality. If you're growing on an urban balcony with fewer pollinators around, try hand pollinating with a small paintbrush. Transfer pollen from the male flowers to the female ones. It takes 2 minutes and meaningfully improves your fruit set. Cucumbers are great for salads. But if you want something you can honestly snack on by the handful, straight off the vine, the next plant wins on pure flavor. Indeterminate cherry tomatoes. Cherry tomatoes in containers work best when you go indeterminate, meaning the vining type that never stops growing. The key is single-stem pruning, the same technique used in commercial greenhouses. You remove all the side shoots, called suckers, and guide one main stem straight up. This keeps the plant compact in the pot while the vine climbs as high as your trellis allows. A single sun gold plant, which is consistently rated top in university taste trials, can produce several hundred fruits in a season when grown this way. Important: strip all the leaves from the bottom 12 inches of the stem as the plant grows. This prevents soil pathogens from splashing up and keeps airflow clean in tight spaces. That's 4 fruiting crops. But what about greens? Most leafy vegetables bolt in summer heat. There's one exception: Malabar spinach. When it's 90 degrees out and your regular spinach has long since bolted, Malabar spinach is just getting started. This is a tropical climbing vine, not a true spinach, but it produces thick, mild leaves that work great in salads and cooked dishes. It thrives in the heat window that kills everything else. 2 plants in a 10-inch pot can yield over a pound of greens per week during peak summer. And the purple-stemmed variety is genuinely beautiful. It's the kind of plant that makes your balcony look intentional. One warning: don't plant it early. Below 65 degrees Fahrenheit, it just sits there. It's a tropical plant, and it needs to believe summer has arrived. We've covered your greens. Now let's talk about something that will make your neighbors genuinely stop and stare. Tromboncino squash. If you've ever tried growing zucchini only to have it destroyed by squash vine borers, Tromboncino is your answer. This Italian heirloom is a vining squash which makes it ideal for vertical growing, and it belongs to the species Cucurbita moscata, the same species as butternut squash. That matters because squash vine borers cannot bore through its hardened stem the way they devastate standard zucchini. Entomological research from the southeast U.S. confirms significantly higher survival rates for this species against vine borers. You'll need a serious trellis, we're talking an arbor or cattle panel, because these vines can run 15 to 20 feet. But the trade-off is worth it. It produces continuously through the season, and if you leave some fruits to mature, they taste like butternut squash and store for months. Tromboncino is for the gardener who thinks big. But the next one is for the gardener who wants something they can eat in the palm of their hand. Minnesota midget cantaloupe. Yes, cantaloupe. In a container. This variety was specifically bred by the University of Minnesota in 1948 for small spaces and short growing seasons. The vines stay at 3 to 4 feet, and the fruits are small enough, about 4 inches across, that they often don't need support slings. They just hang there. Container soil also warms faster than ground soil, which gives melons the warm root zone they love. University trials have shown container-grown melons can actually reach maturity faster than ground-grown ones for this reason. One rookie mistake: harvesting too early. Wait for full slip, when the melon pulls away from the vine with just light pressure. That's when the sugar is fully developed. Melons are sweet. But what if you want something more on the fun, decorative side that you can also eat? Jack B. Little pumpkins. Jack B. Little pumpkins are exactly what they sound like: tiny, palm-sized pumpkins that hang from a trellis, turn bright orange as they ripen, and look absolutely incredible. They mature in about 95 days, much faster than the 120 days most people associate with pumpkins. A single 5-gallon pot with a wire mesh trellis can produce 8 to 12 fruits. Iowa State University Extension notes that vertical growing actually improves pollination rates because the flowers are more accessible to bees when they're not buried under a dense ground-level canopy. And they're not just decorative. Roast them like acorn squash, sweet, nutty flesh. One fertilizer note: go heavy on nitrogen for the first 4 weeks, then switch to phosphorus once you see flowers forming. If you keep pushing nitrogen late, you'll get enormous leaves and almost no pumpkins. We're in the home stretch. These last two are for the more adventurous gardener, and both will give you yields that are hard to believe. Yardlong beans. Yardlong beans, also called asparagus beans, produce pods that can reach 18 to 24 inches long. They're more closely related to cowpeas than to common green beans, which is why they handle heat and humidity so much better. They're aggressive climbers and need a 7 to 8 foot trellis taller than standard pole beans. And they have fewer pest issues with Mexican bean beetles, according to Mississippi State University trials. Harvest them young, around 12 to 15 inches, when they're pencil thin. At full length, the texture goes spongy. And finally, one that's been used as medicine for centuries and is now turning up in urban container gardens across the country. Bitter melon. Bitter melon is a staple in Asian cooking and increasingly popular in the U.S. for both its culinary use and its health research. It contains compounds charantin and polypeptide P that are being studied for blood sugar regulation. The plant itself is beautiful: delicate lace-like foliage, yellow flowers, and dangling green fruits that look striking on an overhead arbor. Harvest the fruits while they're still green and firm. If you're nervous about the bitterness, salt and rinse the slices before cooking, then stir-fry with bold flavors. The bitterness becomes a savory note, not an assault. One critical tip before planting: soak the seeds in warm water for 24 hours. The seed coat is tough and can significantly delay germination if you skip this step. So there you have it, 10 vegetables that grow incredibly well vertically in containers, from beginner-friendly pole beans all the way to bitter melon. Now, if you've been struggling to get any of these plants to actually produce, the issue is usually one of two things: either the soil or the watering. And I made an entire video walking through exactly how to set up container soil for maximum yield, which mix to use, what to add, and what to avoid. It's linked on screen right now. Go watch that next.